After tumbling through the guild door, the noise caught the attention of everyone present. All eyes turned to see what was going on. Rayo stood up with an awkward smile, saying, "Sorry," followed by Rina and then Frin, who bowed his head apologetically. Just then, Guild Master Alman emerged, asking, "What's going on?" The receptionist, still a bit shocked, pointed to them and said, "It's those three. They're back." Alman looked over and recognized Rayo. "Rayo, my boy, you're back. It's barely been 2 days. Did you already beat that dungeon?" Before Rayo could answer, the giant orb they had brought back, held in place by a gold frame, broke free and rolled toward the desk. The receptionist's eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Oh my." Rayo just smiled and said, "Yes, we beat the dungeon." Those who had mocked Rina before stood in shock, realizing she was one of the members who had cleared the dungeon. Alman then said, Come, let's discuss the details in my office." But he paused and asked, "Or do you prefer to heal up first?" Rayo confirmed with Rina and Frin, then said, "We can spare a little more time." A little later, Rayo, Rina, and Frin were in Alman's office with all the items they had brought back. They gave a detailed report of the dungeon's floors. Alman was shocked to hear that floor 15 had mimic monsters, floor 19 had shadow wolves, and floor 20 had a giant armored knight. After gathering all the information about the dungeon's monsters, Alman promoted Rayo to C rank. Since Frin was a summoned companion of Rayo, Rio's rank reflected on him, but Alman upgraded Rio's card to show that Frin was a proven party member if needed. He then advised Rina not to worry, as she wasn't far from B rank. But Rina wasn't bothered. She said, "It's okay. I just want to bring this herb back to help my," she hesitated for a moment, not wanting to reveal too much, then continued, "to help my village." Alman interjected, saying, "If it's more than one person you want to use the herb on, you'll need an apothecary to manufacture it into medicine for multiple people." Rina wasn't aware of that, but Alman added, "Don't worry. There's one in town, and with all the funds you have, I'm sure he'll be happy to do business with you." Rina was relieved. He also advised them to get a magic pouch to store their belongings, though they'd need to raid a couple more dungeons to get one. Rayo realized it would be a hassle but acknowledged how useful it would be. After finishing up with Alman and collecting the rewards for completing the task, Rayo took a large piece of cloth and fashioned it into a makeshift pouch to store their treasure. It wasn't as convenient as a magic pouch, but it would do for now. With their loot securely bundled, they went on their way. Rina then went to see the apothecary, an old man named Wu. At first, he was grumpy, but when he saw the payment, he was more than willing to work for them. He told Rina it would only take 5 days. She agreed to wait. Later that day, after getting patched up from their injuries, their sack of gold and treasure was starting to get thin. Rayo sold the combat club to make back some money, then rented out the best restaurant in town and ordered everything on the menu. Frin dove in, eating to the point where he couldn't move. That night, they really enjoyed themselves. Over the next few days, the group decided to take it easy. They found a secluded area to try out their new upgrades. Frin, with his new defense buff necklace, could take way more damage without getting seriously hurt. Reyna's arrows, both her normal and ice arrows, had become much more powerful, even freezing targets at a faster rate. Rayo started testing out his new dual casting ability, something he hadn't been able to do before. He also tested his sword, realizing that while it remained its small size, it hit with the same force as the giant statue's sword. They were now more powerful than ever, and Frin had even grown a bit bigger. After getting used to their new skills and upgrades, they spent the remaining days resting and exploring the town, taking in all it had to offer. The town was a lively one, especially at night. With the dungeon gone, people could drink and have fun without fear. Once the medicine was ready, Old Man Wu came to find them. Rina was delighted that she could now save her people. Realizing she had a lot of important items to carry, including her portion of the earnings, Reo decided to accompany her to protect the medicine. She accepted, saying it would be much appreciated. They then set out on a journey to Reina's village, taking a couple of days to get there. Reo took out a few bandits along the way, ensuring nothing went wrong. The moment they arrived near the village, archers and fighters were already there, ready to defend, though they were visibly sick. They noticed Reo first as he cleared a path for Reina, so they were ready to attack, not recognizing him as an elf. But then Reina stepped forward, stating her name and saying she had brought medicine. Another elf came out, saying, "Sister Reina, you came back." She replied, "Yes, with the help of my friends, I've found the herb we needed." As she began to distribute the medicine, the elves already showed signs of recovery. She advised Reo to wait a bit so they could sort things out, as going inside might increase his chances of catching the illness. Reo agreed as Reina rushed in to help cure the rest and find her mother. Reo found a spot to sit back, and sometime later, some of the elves could be seen exiting the village. Reina had gone in hopeful, thinking everyone could share the medicine, but it wasn't enough. She would need to get another herb for the rest. Reina, her mom, and the cured ones decided to leave the village for now, splitting the village until the others could be cured. She explained this to Reo, and he said, "Then I guess we'll be going on another dungeon hunt." Reina smiled and hugged Reo, saying, "Thank you." Reina's mom, seeing this, smiled and said, "Oh my, it seems you've found someone already, is this your—" Before she could finish, an embarrassed Reina said, "Mom." Reo was surprised to find out this lady was her mom, as she looked so young. Now that he thought about it, everyone here looked kind of young, except for a few elders. But while looking around, he noticed a few disdainful looks toward him, with some mumbling, "Why is a human here?" Reina noticed this and got frustrated, saying, "Does anyone have a problem with this man who saved you today?" They were shocked to hear this, and some came over to ask, was he the one who really got us the medicine? Reina was about to say yes, but Reo interjected, saying it was a team effort. Reina cut in, saying, it was mostly him and his companion. He's a very powerful warrior, and without their help, I would have never been able to beat the dungeon where we got the herb. An elder of the village came forward and apologized to Reo, saying, "Sorry. It's just that humans don't tend to get along with us elves, as you might already know." He then thanked Reo, and Reo replied, "No worries. I've heard something about that before, but I never really got the whole story." The elder said he'd tell him the story once they got to their new settlement. The elder then said, "Reina mentioned that there was a companion who helped a lot. Can I meet them too, to thank them?" Reo replied, "Yes, the companion she mentioned would be my friend, Frin." Frin had taken a nap earlier from all the traveling, but Reo communicated with him, saying someone would like to meet him. Frin came out, and everyone was shocked to see a Fenrir. Reina smiled as she noticed their expressions. After traveling to their new settlement, the elder, Shu, explained that elves didn't start appearing until about 300 years ago. At first, humans were curious about them, but over time, they learned about the elves, slow aging, and began to covet it for themselves. They captured and experimented on elves, leading to a fight. But with their small numbers, the elves were quickly beaten. Eventually, humans realized they couldn't take the elves' aging factor and let them go, but many still believed it was possible. Many elves retained a hatred and fear of humans, so they lived in secluded areas like this. Though this was some time ago, the elves had never been able to merge into society due to humans wanting to cover up their evil deeds. The nobles changed the script of history, claiming that when elves appeared, they were creatures of destruction from the demon world. So even though today's society no longer cared about their aging factor, they still disdained elves, even sending so-called heroes to wipe them out. Some villages had fallen, but others, like theirs, still remained. They had somewhere they could go, but it wasn't an easy task to get there. Maybe one day, they would. Rayo was saddened to hear the story, though he couldn't really relate. He had some understanding of how cruel some people could be, especially nobles. He already understood why they hadn't disclosed where they wanted to go. He told them he hoped they could get to where they wanted to go. Just then, movement could be heard in some nearby bushes, and a figure emerged wearing a dark, cult-like hoodie. Rayo instantly recognized the clothing, remembering the person from the wilderness all those years ago. Though he didn't know if it was the same person, the figure looked up at him, and Rayo was sure it was the same one who had attacked him that day. The figure didn't recognize Rayo, though. He said, "So, this is what survived. No matter. Since the sickness couldn't claim you, I order all you vile creatures to die." Before they could process what he had said, he fired a massive dark ball of energy at them. Rayo countered with a spell of his own, neutralizing the attack. The figure looked up in surprise, remembering a scene like this before where someone had used a low-level spell to counter his, but back then, the person had died. Before he could finish processing, Rayo asked, "Who are you? Were you the one who caused these people to get ill?" The man stood and said, "Yes. But the way you call these demons, people, makes me believe you're on their side. If that's the case, you should suffer with them." He then fired a barrage of dark spells. Rayo told Rina to take her people and get back as he fired his spells to counter. The hooded figure was quickly losing ground to Rayo, growing upset and ready to use everything he had. But Rayo pulled his sword and rushed in, cutting the man down. Rayo noticed an emblem on the man that he almost recognized. Just then, Rina rushed in, asking if he was okay. He replied, "Yes." A little later, after confirming that the other villagers were still alive, finding out they had hidden when the man arrived, the cured villagers found somewhere else to hide. They offered Rayo a treasure of theirs and begged him to help find another herb to cure the remaining villagers. Rayo agreed, saying he didn't need the treasure and would help regardless. But they insisted, so he accepted. After that was done, Rayo, Frin, and Rina set out on their journey to help her people.